When I was on my recent cruise, they did it one night. They could have done it every night, and Angel would have been totally happy. Hopefully, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if our next guest loves disco music just as much as I do. Corey Gouge, with a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in intercultural communication, 3 years of military service, several multiple-month overseas solo travel, as well as living abroad for close to 3 years. Corey Gouge is a mindset coach and business mentor for impact entrepreneurs, heart-centered leaders, healers, creatives, and rebels.
That's me.
Who want to create a business and life that is a true reflection of their gifts, talents, interests, purpose, and passion. Corey Gouge, welcome to Experience Pros.
Thank you, Angel. It's so awesome to be here. I'm excited.
Corey's very nice.
I love disco as well.
I love that. Thank you.
We got that out of the way.
That's important.
Right.
Corey,
the most important question.
Tell us a little bit about the value of getting our mindset in the right place. I titled our Facebook Live video, "If you don't mindset, it don't matter."
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yes, because I'm sure you have all experienced this. We often are operating out of the way we've been socialized, the way we've been conditioned, and we have this story going on that probably isn't the story that we created. It's the story picked up from our families, from society. It could be from schooling or religion, all these different things. And so when we decide to take control of our mindset and decide what we want our story to be, then we have the power to start changing that story to truly reflect the person that we are instead of the person that we've been playing or the role we've been playing throughout most of our life, actually.
I think that is really fascinating because if we've been playing this role, living this life that maybe just, part of somebody else's script, to actually see ourselves on a completely different path and a completely different role. This is one of the reasons I love reading biographies is because you see people who took what you were saying to heart, Corey, and really decided to rewrite their story. And so I imagine you have lots of incredible stories of transformation. Do you have maybe an example that I could ask you to kind of pull out of your hat and share with us?
Of course. I mean, I have some for myself and I have some from clients. I can share one from my own experience first. For my story, I grew up with, I was quite susceptible to sin, and most, adolescent girls then struggle with their own body and what that looks like. And so that led into, wanting to look a certain way and be a certain way. And of course, having to achieve was always something that was ingrained in my head that you had to achieve to, earn love or appreciation or respect or whatever. So this was so I ended up developing into an eating disorder and depression. And then over time, I decided, it took a while to get, it was time for me to change that story. And so I did a lot of work through writing, through mindset work, through coaching, to the point where now I can say I'm at a point where this is kind of crazy that I actually 2 years ago performed as a burlesque dancer, which is as far from off the spectrum I could have ever imagined doing.
I've not done that yet.
You should do it. It's fun. So that was kind of my extreme, way extreme transformation makeover from, sort of hiding my body and being sort of embarrassed and ashamed of my body to expressing myself freely and confidently and enjoying my, my body and letting it be a form of beauty and sensuality instead of a place of hatred. Yeah.
Wow. What a transformation. And okay, so then what does that do? Give me, when somebody goes through this and discovers, okay, I've been living this way, but there's this other possibility. What does that do for them in the future? And how does it change things?
Great question. Well, I can speak also from a client. So I think a lot of where these stories come from is, just we all have this desire to belong and to be accepted. And so we're willing often as children, especially to do whatever it takes, to play a certain role in our family, to make sure we don't make too much, make too many waves, so to speak. And so sometimes that ends up manifesting into a place of self-doubt and a lack of confidence. So I was working with a client who came to me with that, just wanting to start his own business and just really had a lot of self-doubt and lack of confidence. And he knew this is obviously going to prevent him from building a successful business because you have to be able to believe in what you're doing and believe in your ability to achieve what you desire. So through time and through changing the way he thought and actually implementing daily practices to support his new way of being and his new way of wanting to show up in the world, by the time we finished working together, he came to me and was like, oh, I think I'm going to, and again, this is a person that was kind of hiding out before. He says, I think I'm going to take over, an entrepreneurial meetup group. And I about fell over because he, out of his own volition, decided he was stepping up and he was putting himself out there in such a huge way. And you could just see that sense of confidence, of course, that it took for him to take that on for himself without any pressure from anyone else. So,
Corey, let me ask you this. What tends to get in the way of people? I mean, besides themselves, right? I mean, the greatest distance you'll ever travel is the 18 inches from your head to your heart. But besides that, when you're working with a client and trying to overcome some of these things, what are the biggest objections? And I'm sure you hear one or two more often than most.
Well, I think a lot of it is often we're attached in some way to that old story, to the old way of being, because even though it may not be getting us what we want, it's safe and familiar. And so it's like that idea of, even though we're kind of struggling and suffering, we know what that's like, and we don't quite know what it's like not to have that. And so it's this kind of uncertainty that holds people back of like, I don't even know what a world without that would look like. And even though I don't really like the world I'm in, I know what to expect from that. And even though it's kind of this dichotomy between when you hold on to security for safety, you end up losing both. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's knowing they have to let go of security, and when they let go of that security, they actually will have more safety. But it's being able to really wrap your head around that takes a lot of work and takes a lot of practice. I think, as I mentioned, it's like daily practice, or minute by minute practice.
Well, and I love that you walk your clients through this step by step, because it isn't just a one-day decision. It's a journey they have to go through. Corey, what's the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Lots of ways. I have a YouTube channel. I currently have, if they're interested in getting into more, specifically the 5 steps or daily practices I mentioned, I have access to that if they're interested, and it's at my website, which is CoreyGooge.com. And I can also... I'm
so sorry, I mispronounced your name that whole time.
Everyone does.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Corey Googe. Sorry.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If your listeners are interested in starting to implement daily practices to really start to shift their mindset, which will impact their actions, which will impact their life,
look at it.
They can access that at my website.
That is wonderful. Wonderful. Corey, you have been an incredible guest, so articulate, so comforting, and so empowered. I love that you were with us today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing day.
Can't help it. It's the Experience Pros Radio Show, home of positive business talk. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back right after these messages. In the meantime, if you'd like the archives of this broadcast or everything that we do, go check out experiencepros.com/radio. We'll be back right after this.
The Experience Pros.